How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the P.O.P, aka the Preston Outdoors Podcast. Once again, I'm your host here, Ethan Preston, and joining me today is Conner Christianson from CC Outdoors. How's it going, Conner?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. This is the first guy I want to get on as our interview because there's a subject that's been popping up in my head for the last few days, especially fishing the other day, being mobile and chasing after perch here in North Dakota. The question that popped up from my mind, and I thought you'd be a great person to talk to about this because you honestly have more experience than I do when it comes to, say, the traditional ice fishing, staying in one spot, being less mobile, that kind of thing. I grew up what we call trolling, and we'll get into that when I was a kid, on just moving a lot. And this idea popped up quite a bit for us. So we're going to dive in here. We're going to ask Conner some questions, kind of a rapid fire thing. Allow you guys that are listening, guys and gals that are listening, to get to know him a little bit more. I've had the chance to fish with Conner quite a bit over the last few years. And yeah, so obviously, Conner, you and I know this, okay? Pretty much predominantly know this, but everybody out there that's going to be listening to this, some typical questions on if I didn't know you. What's your favorite type of fish to chase, like to target?
Well, the target would be walleye.
Just simply just walleyes, just because, or anything special about them?
I mean, they're just more rewarding to catch than bass. Even though I target bass 90% of the time, I'd still say walleyes are my favorite.
Yeah. And especially like where you live in Minnesota, it's probably like if we're comparing, forgot to mention Conner's around the Detroit Lakes area in Minnesota. And I mean, for me, I wouldn't done it before, but you've told me a lot too. Walleye fishing seems to be a little bit tougher if we're comparing it to the traditional like slough waters of here in North Dakota, where it's low visibility, low. Go ahead.
Around here, it's pretty tough on the lakes I fish, but it really pays off because 90% of the time you're catching trophy walleyes if you catch them. So it's easier to chase the trophy and to get it. Where, I mean, I got one bass that was over 6 pounds all year. And if I really target walleyes, I can get 4 or 5 30 inches in a year if I hit them hard.
Yeah, so basically in your area, if you're actually put your mind to it and went after fish, you're predominantly going to get a bigger fish instead of just catching a bunch of, say, eater size or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can see that. I can totally see where, I mean, especially where you're at. Obviously if we're going to bounce off of that again, obviously you said walleyes. What's your favorite way to catch them then if you're going to specifically target them?
Well, for ice fishing, I like to run and gun and just find spots. And once I find the right spot with the underwater camera or the flasher, if I can find fish, then I'll set up a house there, either my aluminum skid house or the ice castle, and just hit that spot for a day or two straight and hit it hard, fish all day. And if I don't catch anything, I'm gone, going to find the next spot. Otherwise, if I do catch a few, I'll stay there for a few weeks.
So when you're targeting them, say we're going to stick on the ice fishing topic here. If you're targeting a walleye, if you could catch it one way, like a technique, a bait, whatever, what would be your best way or your favorite way to catch one?
Well, my favorite and most effective way is to use like bigger flutter spoons with fathead minnows and just pound them on bottom until you can get a big mark in, and you just pretty much keep reeling it up straight and slow until they smack it.
A big mark, big mark.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You guys might be able to tell in this, Conner's got a strong Minnesotan accent, so I give him a hard time about saying big mark on the graph. I think it's pretty funny. So say open water fishing, if you decided to take a break from bass and actually target after some of these fish, what is your favorite way to technique or whatever to target the walleyes in your area?
Trolling crankbaits, it's by far the most effective to troll them through weeds.
Through weeds, really?
8 to 10 feet is my favorite depth for targeting them midsummer around here.
So that's technically still pretty shallow for a walleye. I mean, if you think about it, I always think generally 10 foot and under is considered shallow. It depends on your water system, all that crap. But
yeah.
So are you trolling over the top of the weeds, or what are you doing?
I just rip them right through, and you get stuck a lot, and you just have to keep ripping your rod. I mean, because our average lake depth, around, like on the lake I primarily fish, is around 20 feet. And you can catch them 20 to 30 feet, but I like catching them up in the shallows when I'm targeting them.
Yeah, predominantly more active. I've never heard of trolling. I mean, I've cast in lipless crankbaits, bass fishing, that kind of thing, or square bills, but trolling cranks for walleyes through the weeds, I mean, that's We're gonna have to try that for sure. I've honestly never heard of that. Of course, I don't look into it that much. So,
That's
um,
well, I accidentally started doing that one day. I was just trolling a crankbait and I got caught in the weeds, ripped it out, caught a walleye. So I went back over, I caught another one. A few days later, I went in there and caught a 29. Then, like a week later, I got another 25 doing it. So after that, I just pretty much started doing that as my main way of fishing them on these local lakes.
so it's a trade secret that you're just letting out now that you accidentally stumbled upon.
Yep.
Went over the wrong contour, the wrong weed bed, and all of a sudden, boom, you start popping walleyes. See, that's the only thing you can get from time on the water for sure. But another thing I want to talk about before we really dive into the subject is where can everybody find you? We know Conner Christianson now. We know you like to ice fish. We know you like to what species you like to target. Where can we find you on social media so everybody here that doesn't know you like myself can be able to get to know you a little better?
Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I think that's my only platforms. CC Outdoors on all of them. My Instagram is cc.outdoor. Couldn't get my name. It's already taken.
But you
And YouTube as well, CC
yep.
Outdoors.
Yeah, because that's another thing. I mean, we were just talking about before this, but your engagement, you're close to 2,000 followers on Instagram, and just your engagement being at the more of a, what do they call it, the grassroots style, because you are a little bit younger, getting to know more people. I mean, your engagement is increasing, and I've definitely seen that you've picked up on some of your Instagram posts and stuff like that. YouTube, almost closer to 500 subscribers, but Conner doesn't make YouTube videos that often, but he's starting to make them more and more because I keep telling him he needs to keep making them. But his videos are great. You guys need to go check him out on that. And then his biggest social media is just a hair over 36,000 followers on TikTok. Now that is a big, the big thing nowadays, as you could say, for your generation. Is it just something you
Yep.
stumbled upon, or are you starting to find that there are actually people interested in say the hunting and fishing side of things from a short video clip perspective?
Well, I mean, you were actually the reason I got into it because you started posting on there, and I'm like, screw it. Another way to promote my Instagram, which is really why I do it, is just to cross promote for other platforms. And I've built up a decent audience, 36,000 followers. I've met a few good fishermen on there, and that I've become good friends with. And yeah, I mean, just started as a way of cross promoting, and now 36,000 followers later, 800 videos later.
Yeah,
Still doing it.
yeah, it's one of those things like I was like, why aren't you posting videos on here? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, this is stupid. I was like, well, if I'm doing it, I'm freaking way too old for this crap. And then you start posting them. But it's one of those things, if you start it and don't have like a super plan into like, I need to make money off of this crap, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you make organic content, all of a sudden it blows up. And there you are.
Unfortunately, my dad was very into fishing growing up, and that's kind of the reason I got into it. But I had all that gear to start out. I was just using his rods, his tackle. And then a few years ago probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I really like set my eyes on it and just wanted to fish all the time. That's when I started buying a couple rods a year. And now it's like buy a couple rods, new fish finder every year, thousands of dollars worth of tackle, and it's been expensive, but
Thousands of
it's
dollars worth of tackle, but thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of trying to work to pay for that tackle is basically what it is.
yes, pretty much.
So we're going to jump into that now. Conner, is our main subject here is we're going to talk about traditional stationary ice fishing. And like I said in the beginning, why I brought you on here is tell the people what predominantly you fish out of or have fished out of before the last couple of years, talking about stationary ice fishing.
So yeah, leading up to pretty much this year, I have been very stationary with ice fishing and almost always in the ice castle, except for maybe a few times a week I'll go out and tip up fish or chase crappies. But yeah, I mean, this year I really started getting mobile, barely fishing out of the ice castle, but I'm still doing that a good bit just on the weekdays. And yeah.
Because what people probably need to know here is, I mean, like Conner said, he started off the same way I did with a father that was really into the outdoors and stuff. So we got to start off with a lot borrowing rods, borrowing graphs. Shoot, my dad had a freaking canoe that I would borrow to go fish out of. So his dad has an ice castle, and has the ability to live really close or live on a lake for most of his life. And so running down to the lake real quick, hopping the ice castle for a quick 2 hours of fishing is one of the opportunities that he's had. And so I thought, well, what the heck? Because Conner, like I said, has been able to stay stationary, and now is kind of branching into the mobile thing, where I'm the complete opposite. I mean, we grew up, we mobile fished a ton, and sitting in one spot and waiting for the fish come in just kind of ended up driving me nuts, because they're not here and they're not coming, kind of thing. So, but one of the things, I mean, you even mentioned too, tip-up fishing. Tip-up fishing is pretty much in a small area waiting for fish to come around, that kind of thing. And we never did any of that. So if you had a tip for someone that was just getting started into ice fishing, they just bought their first hub house, they just bought their first pop-up, or they're going out on a nice day. I mean, some of the nice weather that we've had, and they've got tip-ups and stuff like that. What are you looking for to drop your ice castle, spend the day? What are you looking for to put your tip-ups up there to spend the day? I mean, it doesn't even have to be anything specific like rocks, wood, whatever. If you've got a lake and you're looking at it, what am I going to try and do? What am I going to try and target per se in this lake that would probably show me some, or have a good chance of success, just stationary ice fishing?
And find something like a point where typically there will be rocks off of almost any point, or if you can find a saddle on the lake maps just leading off of a point or off of a hump, those are really well areas, humps, and I'll go fish there before sunrise. And I like to find the crappies first, and if you can find crappies, pretty much everything else will be there later in the day. So I'll get out there, get all set up with the house, and fish through the day. Typically set up tip-ups, set out one tip-up, and then jig in the house, or go pop some holes outside of the house and jig, and just really find them during the day. And at night, then I just settle down in the house, put a dead stick, and start jigging for some crappies and have the dead stick for walleye.
So basically, if you're hopping onto a new lake, what Conner actually mentioned briefly, because to him it's just an average thing, what everybody else does is you're looking for underwater structure that you want to sit your station, your base, basically on top of. He mentioned humps, underwater saddles, points, anything like that. For me, looking at, we fished a lot when we were shallower and stuff like that. So like understanding for me until a few years ago, like a saddle in the bottom that you can look on your Navionics app or anything, Humminbird's got Lake Master Chip, anything like that. A saddle, is basically the low area between two humps. So you got hump and a hump, and you got a low area in between. It's the middle of the camel's back, basically. And like Conner was saying, any of those things. So basically the synopsis of what he meant is, for a layman, more of a layman's terms, is you want underwater structure. Do not take your house and you want to set up in a spot all day and go set it out in the middle where there's nothing, because there's nothing literally dragging the fish in. There's nothing, there's no channel, there's nothing that's going to bring fish by. Does it mean there's going to be fish there? Probably, but there's nothing that's really going to attract them and at least have fish come by you for most of the day, don't you think?
To add on to that, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I wouldn't go throw it in a random spot on the lake. But if you look on the lake, certain spots where it's just flat bottom in the middle, if you can find a basin that drops off relatively quick into like 20 to 22 feet of water, and you can catch crappies there at night, or even middle of the day, some lakes, and you can catch walleyes there, big pike, pretty much everything will roll through those basins at some point of the day. And we have done that with our ice castle and set up there for a few days, and you catch fish consistently doing it.
That's what I meant, is that don't go and drop it randomly. That's what I was getting at, because even a basin, even a basin is technically still underwater structure.
Because you'll have points off of it somewhere.
Yeah, don't, like you said, Conner was basically echoing what I said. Don't just say, well, we're going to go over here and drop it. Use your map. Do a little bit of study, and that way, that little 5-10 minutes of looking on a contour map and understanding what's going on probably, could have you great success when it comes to fishing. So that's what we're both kind of agreeing. Don't just go and drop your house, go and set up, drill a couple holes and set up there and hope something comes by. If you do a little map research, there's tons of maps on there. The North Dakota Game and Fish has contour maps on their site. You've got maps for the Minnesota DNR. You've got all these free apps on your phone, and you can go ahead and look at that. So basically, what we both really agree on is that if you're going to stay in one spot or a relatively small area and move around a little bit, have some kind of underwater contour structure to where that will hopefully hold fish, or at least get the fish to come by to you.
Yeah, and I'd say researching the lake is more important than your skill when it comes to fishing. Like when I'm going to a new lake that I've never fished before, I'll spend an hour or two looking at the map, breaking down every piece of structure, and I'll just place down a bunch of pins before I get to the lake, and then I'll go, whether I'm in the boat or on the ice, I'll either drive over to the spots or I'll go scan them with the side imaging. Through the ice, it's a little harder to go check new spots, just mobility wise. I mean, a lot of lakes you really can't even drive on this year, especially, but just to go walk around with your flasher and your auger. You want an electric auger because it's light, just to pull around in the sled and just go hit those spots for 10, 20 minutes at a time. You really want to break down a lake before you settle down.
Exactly. And like you said, that's the same way I feel about it too, is if you're taking your kids out fishing and you just want to have them experience it, and have a good time, you probably want to help them to catch some fish. So if you've got a trip planned for the weekend on a Saturday morning, spend a few hours a night or something like that looking at the lake that you're going to head to, and break it down. So the main thing that I think I want to get across for people, that is, if you are going out, you're new to it, you want to stay stationary, um, and you've got the opportunity to, is try and find the high percentage areas in a lake to where that time of year or whatever, and be able to sit on there. Hopefully it's something within probably 50, 60, 100 yards where there's multiple things going on, points, troughs, humps. There's a bunch of stuff going on so that the fish are just kind of circle around you and stay in that area. So now when it comes to like mobile fishing, I mean, you've done a little bit more of that this year. Why have you started maybe switching over a little bit, or been more active on the mobile fishing side of things?
Well, before I was predominantly fishing walleye, pike, stuff like that, where you can hit one area and they stay there. Bass too, they'll constantly be rolling through the spots where we put the ice castle. But this year I've been fishing different lakes for big crappies, and really what we found is you can't hit the same spot for more than 10 minutes. And I mean, it's burned up. You catch 2, 3 crappies out of a hole, you got to move. So we're going out there, getting out at 4 or 5 in the morning, drilling 40, 50 holes around, and just dropping in that hole for a few minutes. If you mark something, you fish it. If not, you just move on to the next, and just have a rotation set in your mind on what you're going to do.
So basically, targeted crappies has kind of forced your hand in a way, per se, to be more mobile, because they are, especially when they're suspended, man. There's when you see it, it's nothing like having a big mark show up. You're a foot off the bottom jigging, and all of a sudden a mark shows up 3-4 feet off the bottom. Big mark, big red mark, and you can raise up to it. I mean, that's a crappie feeding, is when they're up in the water column. So that's, like you said, they're going to be moving around a lot trying to feed, especially crappies. I mean, you can catch them during the day. I mean, you and I both know that during the daytime, but the low light times in the mornings and the evening, they're going to be cruising around, eating as much as they can before they can kind of sail off into the regular day, kind of chill on the bottom and stuff like that. So basically, like you said, crappies have been one of the main reasons that you have been forcing yourself almost to go more mobile.
Yeah, panfish in general, because last March I really got into chasing jumbo perch in Minnesota, which nobody ever thinks of doing because it's Minnesota. They just think we don't have perch, good perch populations. And I found hours and hours of driving around drilling holes in 3 feet of water and burning through a lot of gas. My
Yeah.
dad got mad at me because I was just burning up too much gas in the Ranger and putting on too many miles. But going up into these shallow bays, 3 to 5 feet of water, and just seeing if you mark anything, drill 30 holes. And if you don't see anything, you get out of there. You saw that with the crappies. We got there 5 in the morning after a long drive and got all those holes drilled while you set up the house, and then pretty much just start walking.
Yeah, start walking and start moving. Now, my history behind that is a little bit more going way, way back than maybe yours switching this year, dude. From a kid, we would take almost 2 to 3 trips a month going up to Devil's Lake. It's a 2-hour drive for us. We go up there. My grandfather was the one that wanted to get up there a lot. So my dad, myself, my mom, my brother, we go up there. And dude, we go in the back of Black Tiger Bay where there's old tree rows, old tree beds, and we would literally zigzag to about 12 feet into 4 feet, 12 feet, 4 feet. And we would zigzag, punch holes all the way around, and we would just literally follow the shoreline up and around. We start in the morning. Most of the time, early. I mean, we'd leave at 3. It's probably closer to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. 2 hour drive up there, get set up 5, 6 o'clock, punch a couple holes in that 10 to 8 feet, 12 feet, and we do that. We do our traditional stationary fishing. Wait for something to roll in, perch, walleyes, pike would roll in, and all of a sudden, as soon as the sun come up, you stop marking fish for probably half an hour. Okay, we're going, and we do this all day long. You fish a hole for 10 minutes, if there's nothing there, you move. 5 minutes, nothing there, you move, and then somebody would get cold, or you would leapfrog in front of each other, and all of a sudden the holes are used up. If you're the next person to leapfrog, you grab that sucker and you drill 15 holes. You put it down because you get all hot and sweaty and stuff. You go back, and everybody would zigzag behind you. And we would cover so much water, but we catch so many fish, or mark so many fish, at least something to look at. And so from a kid, that's what it's like. I mean, I don't have high anxiety or anything, but it's like, okay, there's nothing here. We got to go. And then it gets to the point now where if I see a fish, and it's not active, like it doesn't want to chase what I have down there. I mean, I have no problem saying, screw it, going to the next hole, leaving a fish, because
Yep.
I want the active ones.
I'm the same way, and I think sometimes it's beneficial and other times it's not. Like when I've been out on that lake, that one specific lake, targeting those big crappies, and like when I'm with Ben, I'm moving. If there's 3 fish down there, but I can't really get him to move off bottom, I'm leaving, and I'll tell him, come fish this hole, and he'll sit there and catch 3 of them after jigging for 10 minutes. And I mean, usually in that time, I've maybe caught one if I'm lucky. So I think there's certain times where if the bite's finicky, you just got to stay and you got to hit them. But other times, if they're active, and I mean, if most of the fish that you're catching are active and you just got those few sitting down there that won't bite, just leave.
Yeah, so it can kind of be a double-edged sword, like you said. If we're, like you said, Ben can come behind you and catch them, or anybody can come behind you and catch them. And it's not the fact that I would leave those fish, like walleyes and stuff. If they're single marks, like I like to stay with them, because most of the time you can try and get them fired up. But like the crappies and stuff, and then just the other day, I mean, this really why this subject came up for me is pan fishing for yellow perch. My dad and I went out the other day, and it was awful, I want to say, compared to what we had first started, where you could pop one hole, you could sit 5 people within 10 feet of each other, and bang, 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 left and right. So one thing attributed to is the ice got thicker, so now more people can drive out there. There's minivans out there, the word gets out, social media, all that stuff. And then we're getting to that transition time where it's now about middle of the ice season, which can traditionally be the toughest part of ice season. They've seen all this crap. They've got the early ice feed done. They will feed when they need to, unstable weather patterns, stuff like that. We literally would drill a hole. In the past, drill hole, hey, I got him. He'd run over there. And so then go ahead and sit there and jig on that thing. And it was like, what the crap? We could catch them all. And now we go, by the time I get over there and drill a hole, the fish are gone, are just gone. And it's like, what the heck? So we drill 30 holes. Like you said, I mean, people think we're exaggerating, but we drill that many holes. And all
Oh
of a
yeah.
sudden, 40 yards away, he goes, hey, they're here. Run over there, drill a hole, you catch 10. Put 3 back because they're small, and then they're gone. So then we move again. And there was literally a time where he was 100 yards away. I got him, and there's a bunch of people around, so I slowly walk over there. Didn't want to make obvious. Boom, we catch 15 fish. I think we kept 10 of them, and then fished my holes all the way back to the truck and didn't see a single thing. Got to a hole where we started an hour earlier, and the fish were there. And I don't know if it's the same school. I can't speak to that, but we're moving back and forth. And like I told you this before we started, there's people that would drive in, set up a house because it's next to other houses. A guy drove all the way across the lake with his four-wheeler, set his house up next to a permanent that nobody was in there. And all of a sudden, like an hour later, oh my gosh, you're getting a bite. It's like, dude, what do you mean you're just getting excited for a bite? And I understand people don't want to be that mobile and the weather wasn't that nice. But to have success, it took us 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but we finished with our 20 perch a piece, so 40 perch. And I mean, threw a lot of the smaller ones back, but it nailed it home. The guys would pull in with their ice castles and drop them down, and then they would leave an hour later, and there'd only be 2 holes in that ice castle, one for a guy and one for his wife. So not only did you not keep the school around if you caught some, but you drove your ice castle 2 miles to go drill 2 holes, not catch anything, and drive away. So I think that instant really is like, this is a topic that we need to talk about. Like, there is a time and a place for both of these types of fishing. Now, the lake that I was fishing, I really like to compare it to Lake Winnipeg. The same thing, where you're making multiple moves at a time because there is not much structure there. There isn't in Lake Winnipeg.
Yeah,
And the same thing here.
Make a few micro moves and then a macro move every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. So what I want to talk about next kind of is something we're kind of getting into before I had to read that message, is what my last comment was, is that there is a good time. There's basically a time for both of these, and there's a mixture. You literally just said it the last time, is like, you set up in the morning. If you're going for crappies, we set up, we wait, sun comes up, and then boom, we're mobile. Or it's the same thing as like in the ice castle, to where you set up, you can do both. People, I feel like you should let people know that you don't have to just be one or the other. And there's people that are totally content with setting their ice castle up, with setting their hub house up. You know this, I mean, just as well as I do, drinking a 6-pack of beer and hope that bobber never goes down by the end of the day. That's just their getaway. I know a guy that would go set up in his house. He'd drive an hour and a half, set up in his ice house, and sit there all day long. The reason was just get away from his wife. Like, he needed his
Yeah,
time.
and they don't even drill holes.
Yeah, and he's just didn't catch anything. Just kill a 12-pack and we're good to go. But it's, I mean, for a lot of people, they're out there for the social aspect and stuff. So I don't want, and you can elaborate on this more, I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, you hate on mobile fishing because, whatever, and I hate on stationary fishing. I mean, there's both. I would really like in the evening time. I really prefer it if I can. In the evening, in the morning, first bite, first light, first bite, last light, last bite kind of thing, setting up and waiting for fish to come. Because I feel sometimes, like you said, you move too much. Those fish should be, if you're in the right spot, they should be coming to you ready to feed and carry on their daily cycle. So if you're moving, you could actually, in a circle, be moving away from fish. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that much more, but I mean, I think to be open-minded for both sides of things is if you want to be a better fisherman, basically.
Well, for me, it depends. So if we're set up on like a high percentage area with the fish house and I'm alone, yeah, I'll stay right on that spot and I won't move in the morning. But if we got 2 or more people and we can have all these holes drilled out, we can all be hole hopping. Somebody finds the school, then we go drill 2 more holes next to it. And you can all hit that spot, and then you keep moving around, find another spot, start drilling holes there. And you can really break down an area and hit a school really hard if you've got multiple people. But like you said, like if I'm alone, I stay put. I don't move around in fear of missing out on the school.
Yeah. So I think lesson for this can be learned is that, I mean, don't be naive to the other option of ice fishing when it comes to being mobile or immobile, basically. Don't be naive of the other option, but also understand maybe what you're too comfortable with, and branch out. So like I have had to learn in the mornings and stuff like that, maybe I need to stay there. Or shoot, we just left a bite the other day, dude. I thought it was going to be a morning bite. We left. I talked to a guy after we left. He said, yeah, they're coming through right now. It's 10, 11 o'clock. They're coming through and catching walleyes. And I'm like, you kidding me? I caught 1 dink and my dad caught 6 dinks and a pike. And he's like, yeah, they're coming through. Some are biting, some aren't, but they're coming through more regularly now. So it's like me moving spots actually hurt me there. So in some instances, you got to, switch it up. And it's all relative to the fishery. It's all relative to the stuff you're chasing. But that's just with everything in life. But I think if somebody can understand that there's sometimes one's better than the other, or doing a combination of both can be really productive. Well, everybody, I want to thank you guys for watching or listening, whichever you're viewing us. You can check us out on all the major streaming platforms for the podcast. Also, you can check it out on the Preston Outdoors YouTube channel. I think Conner didn't think we were going to go this long, but I told him, I said, we've covered a lot of stuff, but being able to branch off these 2 subjects and stuff like that. So before we leave it off to Conner for his last thoughts, I just want to let you guys know you can find these podcasts, like I mentioned, on all the streaming platforms and the YouTube channel. Also go to the Preston Outdoors website. We'll have a blog up there with each one of the episodes on there. If you have any questions for myself, you can leave comments there on the blog. If you have any Q&As or subjects that you want to hear about, go ahead and you can also send an email to PrestonOutdoors with the number 2 at gmail.com, or send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. I'd really like to hear from you guys on some subjects that you want to hear, that what you want to engage with, or there's things that maybe you don't agree with or something we left out. You can go ahead and mention that, and that's another episode that we can dive into. So on that note, I hope you guys learned something. I mean, I obviously learned some here, just listen from Conner's point of view and how he's getting started on everything, and hopefully he learned something from where it comes from me or whatever. But thanks, Conner. I appreciate you hopping on and talking about this, even though it's a school night and you got to get to bed.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, guys, thanks for watching, and tune in next time to the P.O.P, aka the Preston Outdoors Podcast. We'll see you later.